Welcome to Job Tips, the career development channel. In this video, how to address the interview question or statement. Tell me about a customer that you had to deal with who had more experience in your industry than you did. That is coming up. If the interview that you are in is for a sales or marketing kind of role, or in a position within a company that deals in selling and marketing products or services, you may have a question come up. Tell me about a time when you had a customer that you had to deal with who had more experience in the industry than you did. Maybe you were new, for example, in the industry. You're a new salesperson, maybe a new person in marketing, and for some reason you're involved with a customer, and that person had more experience and more knowledge in the industry than you had, and sort of challenged you, and you weren't quite sure how to deal with it, or you just had to sort of deal with it, but it can be really awkward when you are dealing with a customer who knows much more about the industry than you do. You're coming in with a product or a service, and as a salesperson or a marketing person, you're tending to be viewed as one who's got the answers. But if you're kind of new, you don't have the experience that this person has, how can you advise him or her? Think about that. It can be kind of awkward. So if you've had that experience in the past and you need to share that with the interviewer, one way that you can answer it, even if you didn't handle it this way, you may have gained some wisdom from it and have later had some introspection, like right now, because I'm going to give you a great tip. You can share this in your response. You can say something along the lines of, when I was new in the industry, I was assigned several accounts, and there was this one account whose owner was in the industry for 45 years. He was an old, kind of crotchety old man. This is a true story, by the way, from me. He was an old, kind of crotchety old man. And when I first went in to talk to him about our company offerings, I was in sales at the time, the first thing he did was challenge me on, well, what do you know? You're a newbie. Knowing about this guy, I went in prepared to just learn from him and gain his respect as a new person in the industry, that I can learn something from him. So that first time I went in, I did not pitch a sales promotion. I did not pitch product. I didn't pretend to know more than I knew, because I knew his knowledge would smoke me and leave me in the dust. So when I walked in, he said, "What can you offer me? You've just gotten in this thing." I said, "You know what, Stan?" That was his first name, by the way. "I didn't come in to sell you anything. I came in to meet you. I've heard a lot about you. And I wanted to come in, and if it's okay with you, to spend some time with you learning from you. Is that okay?" Now, in this example, this was a real-life example that I experienced many, many years ago. I was in radiator sales, that is for cars and light trucks, the cooling system, radiator. And this was a very old, sort of crotchety, grumpy old man who had been doing this forever, breathing in solder and flux and you name it, and all the chemicals in an old radiator shop in the Los Angeles area. Kind of old and senile. And I knew, yes, that first of all, there's no way I was going to penetrate his head and his heart, being somebody who's brand new with all that he knew and some of the bitterness he had in his past and whatnot. So I got to his heart by saying, "Look, I want to learn from you. Will you allow me to ask you some questions and just sort of tutor me along the way here for maybe an hour or so? Is it okay?" He said yes, frankly. Okay? I'm going to share with you these details so you can then look at this kind of example and think of something that works for you, that is true, or maybe you could say this is how I would respond, how I would deal with it, because it's worked so well. He allowed me 2 hours to watch him work and just ask him questions about his business, about his craft and how he did what he did and how he built his business and those sorts of things. He started opening up to me about his personal life, about his daughter and his wife who had passed away during this 2-hour time. So this sales call was not a sales call. It was a relationship sort of developing call, right? He then said, well, Greg, it was great talking to you, and I got to get back to work here, but you feel free to stop in at any time, and you know what? You're always welcome here. That helped me in my future relationship with him, and true story, about 2 sales calls later, over the next few months, we became his only supplier for the products that he needed to run his radiator shop, from radiators to other supplies to solder to you name it, in that industry. He had decades more experience than I had. That's how I handled it. So if you've never had that experience, you can use the story I just gave you, this true story that I just gave you. Make this work in your response. You could say, you know what? That's never happened to me. But if it had happened, here's how I think it could be handled. Or maybe you had a situation where the person knew more than you did. You may have handled it differently, and maybe it wasn't good. But you can say a very good way, I think, to handle that situation is, and sort of merge into your answer this kind of concept, okay, as far as how to handle that kind of customer. And I think that'll serve you very, very well. And then remember to sort of wrap up the answer with, and isn't that the kind of person you're looking for? Someone who can handle difficult situations in challenging environments and think on their feet. And I'm that person. Okay? So you're now sort of closing the sale on this job opportunity. Because remember, your job in the interview is not just to interview. Your job is to get the job. Well, I hope this tip helps you a bit. Let me know in the comments below when you've had customers who knew more than you did, and it was a challenge for you, and how did you handle it? Also, please feel free to suggest future videos you'd like to see in this channel. And finally, I would be honored if you would subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Well, for job tips, I do hope that you get that job and that you have that dynamic career that you want to have.